Do you want to be able to spot a lie? Do you want to be able to tell if someone really likes you? Well, that's what we're going to be going over today in What Everybody Is Saying by Joe Navarro. What's going on, guys? It's Nick from Mindful Mastery, where I help you master your mind. Coming at you today with a freshly shaved face, but I never like to go full baby face, so I had to leave the stash. Today we're going to be looking at What Everybody Is Saying by Joe Navarro, an ex-FBI agent's guide to speed reading. Now, it's mainly about looking at people's nonverbals and trying to tell what their true intentions and feelings are. It goes over it pretty well, and it has a lot of good examples and pretty interesting interrogations that they've gone through. But let's get right into it with takeaway number 1. A few things to keep in mind. So there are 4 things that you want to keep in mind whenever you are trying to assess someone's nonverbals. The first is context. So people's nonverbals won't always reflect the same thing in whatever situation that they're in, whether they're in a job interview or an interrogation or just a conversation. Also, one behavior by itself does not necessarily mean anything. You have to try and pay attention to as many behaviors as possible and compare them to the other ones whenever you're trying to assess how a person is feeling or what their intentions are. The second thing you want to keep in mind is the context of the person and or the gender, because not all of these tells are universal. They are universal, but it doesn't mean that everyone has them. It just means that most. So there are going to be a few unique tells here and there, and whenever you're trying to determine what they mean, try and measure that to what their other nonverbals are saying. And also, men and women tend to have different nonverbal tells for different things. I'm not really going to be going over that in this video, but I might in a future video. We'll see. Just try and keep that in mind whenever you are assessing someone's nonverbals. The third thing that you want to keep in mind is observation. Now, observation is a skill that requires you to work it. It's kind of like a muscle, and the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. You also don't want to make it too obvious that you're trying to pay attention to their nonverbals, because that could cause the other person to kind of freeze up and get a little awkward. The fourth thing that you want to keep in mind whenever you're observing people is that the body is the most truthful at the bottom, and then as you get closer and closer to the head, the easier it is for someone to lie about it. This is because that the closer that they get to this area, the more focus that can be held in this area, so it's easier to lie with your face or alter whatever your nonverbals are saying. But people don't generally think about their feet, so whenever you're assessing someone's nonverbals, just keep in mind their lower body's nonverbals whenever you're comparing it to their upper body's nonverbals. Takeaway number 2, uncomfortable nonverbals. So this is obviously whenever they're showing discomfort, which is generally caused because they're anxious or worried about something, and their body will be tense, and they'll try to do some soothing behaviors that help to rid of that anxiety or worry. The first nonverbal is eye blocking or squinting. So someone will either kind of put their hands up in front of their eyes, or they'll squint whenever they're looking at you. And this is because people don't want to look at what they don't like, so they try and minimize how much is going into their eyes. The second nonverbal is feet locking, and this will happen whenever they are sitting somewhere and they're uncomfortable, and they'll kind of wrap their feet around the chair and try and lock themselves in a sturdy position, or they'll just kind of have their feet straight in front of them, and then they'll kind of hold their hands down on it to try and get an established base to be a little bit more comfortable. The third nonverbal is pacifying behaviors, and this is really any behavior that is trying to soothe the body. It tends to be rubbing of some sort, so they'll rub the back of their neck or rub their face or rub their arms, or just really anything to kind of ease the anxiety or tension that they are feeling. The fourth nonverbal is body blocking. So people will try and block off parts of their body whenever they don't feel comfortable with someone because they don't trust that person, and they are fearful subconsciously that they could be attacked since they're still uncomfortable with them. So they'll kind of block off parts of their body. They'll kind of sit to the side a little bit and then cross their leg over their side to have something in between them, or they'll do something similar by crossing their arms across their chest to protect most of their vital organs. The fifth nonverbal is someone's hygiene. Now, this isn't necessarily an uncomfortable or a comfortable nonverbal, but a person's hygiene says a lot about they feel about themselves. So if someone has poor hygiene, they are possibly physically or mentally ill in some way. So you can keep that in mind whenever you're trying to assess how someone feels about themselves. The sixth nonverbal is whenever someone touches their lips or licks their lips. This signifies that they are insecure in whatever they are talking about, and it generally happens whenever they have to ponder something. They'll end up taking a while and then be touching their lips or licking their lips because they're insecure about it. But keep in mind context with all of these, and the more of these nonverbals that show up, the easier it is to make your judgment about how that person is feeling. Takeaway number 3, comfortable nonverbals. So this is just the opposite of uncomfortable. Whenever someone is comfortable, in a good mood, or they like you, they'll tend to display these. The first one is whenever they raise their eyebrows and their pupils dilate. They'll do this because they're happy to see you, and the pupils will dilate and get really wide because they want to see as much of you as possible. The second nonverbal is whenever someone shows a real smile. Now, a fake smile is whenever someone is just like this, and they don't really have any crow's feet right here. But whenever someone is really smiling, then they'll be looking like this, and they'll have their eyebrows raised, and they'll have some crow's feet right here. I don't know if you can tell. There you go. Sorry, that was probably a little bit too close and it looked a little ugly. But whenever you see crow's feet right next to someone's eyes, that signifies that they are happy to see you and it is a genuine smile. At first, it might be a little hard to notice, but the more you notice it, the easier it will become. The third nonverbal is happy feet. Now, this isn't whenever someone is really jittery and they're shaking their legs a lot. It's more like they're kind of dancing with their legs, you know? It shows that they're happy about whatever's going on or they're looking forward to something. The fourth nonverbal is gravity-defying behaviors. And this is basically any behavior that goes in the opposite direction of gravity. So if you stand on the balls of your feet, or if you raise your hands up in success, then those are gravity-defying behaviors. You know, whenever you get excited after your team wins a big game, you say, yes! That didn't happen too much for me, because Cowboys didn't make it to the playoffs, you know. Feels bad, man. But the fifth nonverbal is whenever someone crosses their feet whenever they're standing in front of you. Someone does this to show that they're comfortable with you, because that tends to make someone off balance whenever they're crossing their feet. So they're not really worried that you're going to attack them. And this is kind of a trend with a lot of these nonverbals. Depending on how someone feels about you and the more comfortable they are with you, the more likely they are to make themselves vulnerable to being attacked. This kind of goes back to our primitive instincts and stuff like that. But this leads to the sixth nonverbal, which is opening up, really having it where any of their vital organs are available and vulnerable for you to attack them in any way, like their torso or their back. The seventh nonverbal is isopraxism. So, let's say me and you are on a date, and I lean in, and then you lean in, and then I lean out, and then you lean out. This is isopraxism. I'm not sure if that's a correct way to use that term, but let's just stick with it. It's basically just you and another person mirroring each other, showing that you're comfortable with each other and that you're kind of in a type of synchrony. The fourth takeaway is lying tells. Now I have lying tells and power moves separate from comfortable and uncomfortable nonverbals because they had a lot of notes that I wrote down about them, and also I figured there'd be something that a lot of people would be interested in. So the first lying tell is whenever someone restricts their body movements. So people will like put their hands down in their lap and then put their feet right in front of them and try and restrict as much movement as possible, because whenever someone is lying, they're more focused on the lie and they kind of forget about moving their body So whenever someone is telling the truth, they really try and emphasize it and then do a lot of big movements because they aren't actually lying, and they're able to remember to move their body. It's not necessarily remembering, but it is more natural because you are telling the truth, whereas whenever you're lying, it's not as natural. But keep this one in context because he does give an example of people that were abused as a child tend to restrict their body movements as well. And this is because that they learned to do this whenever their abusers were around because it attracted less attention, so they were less likely to be noticed and then less likely to be abused. But the second nonverbal is body contradiction. So say I'm telling you something and then I'm shaking my head no, or I wait a little bit and then I shake my head yes, then that probably means that I'm lying, because someone that will be telling the truth will be shaking their head up and down whenever they are telling the truth. And a third nonverbal is if someone is shrinking away and kind of trying to minimize their body, then shows that they're either lying or that they're not confident in whatever they're saying. They're just trying to hide themselves and protect themselves. Takeaway number 5, power moves. So the first power move is hand steepling. And that's kind of like you're getting ready to pray, except you just touch your fingertips together like so. You'll see this in movies where the evil villains will kind of be sitting in their chair and they'll have their hands like this and have a maniacal smile on their face. Now this just signifies that someone is really confident in their position. And the second power move is having thumbs up or having thumbs hanging out of your pocket whenever your hands are in your pocket. So whenever you have your thumbs kind of like this, whenever your hands are together, it shows that things are positive and that you're confident about whatever's going on. And then whenever you have your thumbs hanging out of your pocket, it also shows that you are confident, and it's more of a power move. The third nonverbal power move is actually an uncomfortable nonverbal, but it is still a power move, and that is whenever people's feet are splaying and they are spreading them out as wide as possible, trying to get as much distance and coverage and territory as they can to try and display their dominance. This also helps to increase their balance so that if in case they are attacked, they are ready for it because they have a good balance. But those are my top 5 takeaways for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed them, and let me know what your favorite nonverbal was, or if there are some nonverbals that I didn't have today that you really like, then please comment those below, and keep mastering your mind.